Chapter 4. The Telegram in the Embers. Nancy's heart hammered against her ribs, but her voice remained steady as Clara's grip tightened on her wrist. The sweet seamstress of Blackwood Cove was gone. In her place was a woman with eyes as cold as the North Atlantic. "You're a long way from River Heights, Miss Drew," Clara hissed, "and you're sticking that famous nose of yours into business that doesn't concern you." "I think a smuggling ring operating out of a friend's house concerns me quite a bit," Nancy retorted. She twisted her arm, using a self-defense maneuver her father had insisted she learn, and broke Clara's hold. "Arthur, get back here!" Clara screamed. Nancy didn't wait for the heavy-set man to return. She snatched the leather ledger from the mantel and bolted toward the terrace doors. But as she reached the glass, she saw the silhouette of a third man, the truck driver, waiting outside. She was cornered. Thinking fast, Nancy dived behind a heavy velvet curtain, just as Arthur burst back into the room. "Where is she?" Arthur roared, his flashlight beam swinging wildly across the oak paneling. "She's in the house somewhere. Find her and get that book back." Clara's voice was shrill with panic. "If that ledger reaches the authorities, we're all going to Atlanta Federal." Nancy pressed her back against the cold stone of the chimney. In the darkness, her hand brushed against the hearth. Her fingers met something crisp and papery. She looked down and saw a pile of gray ash in the fireplace, the remnants of a fire that had been lit earlier that evening. Among the charred logs sat a single yellowed scrap of paper that hadn't quite caught fire. Nancy tucked it into her pocket just as Arthur's flashlight beam swept over the curtain. "I'll check the library," Arthur shouted, his heavy boots thumping away toward the front of the house. Nancy seized the moment. She slipped out from behind the curtain and darted through the open secret panel, sliding down the priest's hole staircase she and Bess had used earlier. She didn't head for the cellar this time. She slipped into the kitchen and out the servants' entrance, disappearing into the thick Maine fog. She found the blue roadster hidden behind a cluster of pine trees. Bess was already in the passenger seat, trembling so hard the car seemed to vibrate. "Nancy, thank goodness!" Bess gasped as Nancy vaulted into the driver's seat. "I thought they'd caught you." "Not yet," Nancy said, coaxing the engine to life. She kept the headlights off, navigating the winding gravel drive by the faint memory of the afternoon's arrival. Once they reached the main coastal road, she stepped on the gas, and the roadster roared into the mist. "We can't go to the local sheriff," Nancy said, her eyes fixed on the road. "If Clara's as well known in the village as you say, she might have friends on the force. We need the Coast Guard." They pulled over under the shelter of a covered bridge a few miles away. Nancy clicked on her small electric torch and pulled the scrap of paper from her pocket. It was a telegram, half scorched but still legible. "To CV, Blackwood Cove. Cargo arrives 0300. The tide rises at 3. The fog is our shield. If the guest interferes, deal with her. The captain." Bess gasped. "The captain? Nancy, does that mean Elias Bourne is really a smuggler?" Nancy studied the telegram, her brow furrowed. "It looks like it, Bess. The initials CV must stand for Clara. Her last name is Vane, isn't it? But look at the handwriting on the address line. It's elegant, flowing, completely different from the shaky, sea-weathered script in the letters Captain Thorne sent to your family. You think it's a forgery?" "I think someone is going to great lengths to make it look like the captain is the mastermind," Nancy said, tapping her chin. "But why? If they have the run of the house, why frame him?" Nancy turned the paper over. On the back, scribbled in a different, hurried hand, were coordinates and a single word, Lucifer. "Lucifer?" Bess shivered. "That sounds like a bad omen." "It's not an omen, Bess. It's a name," Nancy realized, her eyes widening. "In the harbor today, I saw an old black-painted tugboat named the Lucifer. It was docked right next to the Coast Guard cutter." Nancy shifted the roadster into gear. "They aren't just smuggling cargo into the house. They're using the house as a distraction. The real cargo is already in the harbor, right under the noses of the authorities. We have to get to the telegraph office before 3 a.m. As they sped back toward the village, a pair of headlights suddenly appeared in the rearview mirror. A heavy black sedan was gaining on them, its engine roaring like a wounded beast. "They found us!" Bess shrieked. Nancy gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white. "Hold on, Bess. This roadster has a few tricks up its sleeve." To be continued.